The first thing the man did after awakening his ability was to make the beautiful examiner blush deeply. The reason was that the power I awakened was a myth-level visual enhancement. Faced with all things in the world, I could easily see through them at a glance. It turned out that in the year 2026, Lanshan suddenly and without warning birthed its first life-forbidden zone, the White Mist Zone. Since then, the White Mist began ravenously devouring life within a 100-mile radius. After that catastrophe, out of millions only about 1,000 people managed to walk out alive from the Forbidden Zone. Even more despairing was that the White Mist Zone did not stop expanding. Instead it spread across Lanshan at a rate of about one new zone a year. No one knew the true origin of these Forbidden Zones. The only sure thing was that to survive within the White Mist one had to obey that mysterious set of Forbidden Zone rules. Fortunately, accompanying the White Mist Zones came the awakening of abilities in Lanshan creatures. Humans who awakened powers were called adepts, while animals mutated into powerful fiends. I still remember the day the White Mist fell 7 years ago. Everyone desperately fled toward safety, but as soon as I reached the edge I was violently bounced back by an invisible barrier. My sister, seeing me blocked, turned back without hesitation. Grandpa Mu at my side also shook his head and refused to leave. From that day on, the three of us lived on the edge of the White Mist Zone, barely surviving by occasionally hunting weak fiends. That day I carried my sister's pack and secretly went to the zone's edge to look for food. Through a telescope my sister saw 3 figures moving in the white mist, 3 adepts surrounding a bovine fiend. The fiend's pounding shook the ground, then a masked man with twin blades split the fiend's belly in an instant, leaving a large hole. Another companion's hair bristled and he evolved into a werewolf. He was a shapeshifter adept. The last raised both arms and swung an axe, splitting the fiend's skull. With the fiend crashing down, the 3 did not linger but turned and walked deep into the White Mist Zone. My sister excitedly wanted to share the discovery with me, but my legs suddenly went weak and I fell to the ground. My sister cheered at the nearby fiend carcass, finally meat to eat, and soon we dragged the carcass back to our makeshift camp at the zone edge. At the table I hunched over a beef bone and gnawed seriously when my sister placed a large chunk of beef into my bowl, scolding that with this much meat here I should not be nibbling at bones and must eat it all with no leftovers. I tried to explain I was saving it, but her tone was firm and I couldn't refuse, so I picked up my chopsticks and stuffed big mouthfuls in. After swallowing 2 bites my pupils suddenly contracted sharply. The next second the light before my eyes was swallowed by darkness and the familiar sensation of weightlessness struck, and my heart sank. Was my intermittent blindness acting up again? It reminded me of the scene 7 years ago when the invisible wall drew a cold loop 17 kilometers beyond the zone edge, and I felt like a prisoner forgotten by the world, trapped in the narrow seam between the forbidden and safe zones. Over the years my blindness attacks went from once every few months to sudden unpredictable episodes. Every time I'm plunged into darkness I fear I might never open my eyes again. Worry pressed on me like a stone. Grandpa Mu's health was declining and only the human safe zones had the medicine to treat him, and my sister could have joined an adept team and had a better future. She shouldn't be held back here by me. So that night I quietly went to my sister's room and told her to take Grandpa Mu to the human safe zone tomorrow. She hesitated then shook her head. We had promised to break that wall together and go out together, and as a sister she couldn't abandon me. I forced my feelings down and explained my concerns, but Grandpa Mu couldn't wait, and Zone 22 had trapped only me from the start. Maybe going outside I'd awaken something, get stronger and then come back to help. My sister suddenly hugged me, not wanting to leave me alone and fearing that parting might be forever. I patted her and put on a brave face, saying I'd held on for 7 years so I could do so again. After a long silence she finally nodded. Early the next morning my sister packed and drove off. Grandpa Mu saw the car loaded with things and asked where they were going, so my sister lied that the car held only tools, but Grandpa Mu soon realized and banged on the window shouting to stop. He wouldn't leave me here alone. My sister gritted her teeth, stomped the gas, and drove away. I stood watching the taillights grow distant and tears fell, but this wasn't the time to be weak. I had to find a way to survive. After seeing them off I turned and walked into the depths of the White Mist Zone. Rumor had it the zone hid deadly rules and violators were cruelly punished, so over the years many had compiled a flawed rules book with lives as the price. But having already once stumbled into a zone 7 years ago and survived, what was there to fear about going in again? Passing through the thick white mist, the sight stunned me. Inside the zone existed a complete ecosystem, lush plants, birdsong, fragrant flowers, like a forgotten paradise. I found a flat spot, built a fire, and cooked the remaining beef. As I lifted the bowl to sip the broth my vision suddenly went dark again. Usually such attacks lasted only seconds, but this time the light did not return quickly and I feared permanent blindness, until I suddenly opened my eyes and not only was my sight restored but a few lines of faint golden characters had appeared on my arm. Before I could examine them, the characters floated up, then slowly formed several lines of text. White Mist Zone Rules. Rule 1. No attacking your own kind. Rule 2. No shedding tears or crying. Rule 3. Must respond within 3 seconds if someone calls you. Rule 4. No insulting others. Rule 5. Wash your hands before eating. Violating any rule brings lethal punishment. For safety, I hurriedly took out a notebook and wrote the rules down, my heart pounding with fear. Fortunately, I had washed my hands before drinking the broth, otherwise I might already be dead. Since I could see all the rules, perhaps I could avoid every hidden danger. I then tried many methods to activate this ability to see the rules, staring, concentrating, but after 2.5 hours nothing happened, leading me to suspect maybe this ability only triggers during blindness. I suddenly recalled that after eating a bite of oxtail yesterday my blindness had triggered soon after. Perhaps eating certain meats like mushroom flesh could promote ability growth. That meant I needed to find more mushrooms and try to quickly master this ability so I could see all the rules. And in the restricted zone, 30 kilometers west at the frontier camp, Captain Ethan was staring at the newly received report. Detection shows that inside the white mist zone at Site 22, a surge of anomalous crystal energy has appeared. Organize the squad immediately to investigate. Ethan suddenly ripped off the plaster cast on his hand. Night Watch Squad, assemble. Close Combat Specialist and Sharpshooter Ryan, along with Support Specialist Sophie, were instantly ready. But when they heard the mission was to head back into the restricted zone and retrieve the crystal, the team began to complain on the spot. They had just barely escaped with their lives from a zone, their wounds hadn't even fully healed, and now they were being ordered to return. Ethan slammed the table in anger, his voice carrying unquestionable firmness. Don't forget we are Night Watch. Even if the zone is dangerous, the anomalous crystal must be retrieved. His words snapped the squad back to their senses, and they quickly steadied their resolve. Half an hour later, they followed Ethan back into the white mist zone. But just as they found the anomalous crystal, a demonized white ape lunged at them from behind, relentlessly chasing Ryan who was carrying the crystal. Ethan immediately made a decisive call. Ryan, use your speed ability and evacuate with the crystal. We'll stay and hold it back. Sniper Logan swiftly raised his rifle, and in the next moment scored a direct hit to the head of the demonized beast. The immense impact force blasted its body away, and everyone breathed a sigh of relief, thinking it was finished. But a second later, the monster's eyes snapped open and it burst from the rubble. Seeing this, Ethan instantly unleashed his blooming golden spears ability. In an instant, hundreds of golden lances materialized in his hands and rained down like a storm upon the creature. But shockingly, the golden lances failed to pierce its hide. Instead, the beast grabbed them and, in the gap between attacks, frantically condensed a ball of corrupted energy in its mouth. The next second, a black beam tore through the golden spears and shot straight at Ethan. Caught off guard, Ethan was struck in the arm. His arm instantly withered to bare bone. Sophie rushed to his side, rolling up her sleeve. Captain, quick, bite me. Without hesitation, Ethan sank his teeth into Sophie's arm. At once, flesh began to regrow over his skeletal arm at a speed visible to the eye, fully regenerating within seconds. Ethan then pushed Sophie aside and charged back to face the beast. The monster lunged again, jaws wide, but Ethan raised a golden shield to block, signaling Logan behind him to fire. Logan pulled the trigger, and the bullet whizzed past Ethan's shoulder, striking clean through the beast's skull. Only then did Ethan let out a long breath. The creatures in the restricted zone were far too vicious, utterly unfit for human survival. And the violent energy clash just now might have attracted others. We need to withdraw immediately. Sophie nodded, silently praying that Ryan would safely get the crystal out. As they neared the zone's edge, Ethan suddenly halted. Why does the air smell like cooked meat? Following the scent, they spotted someone casually enjoying hot pot inside the restricted zone. At that moment, I was blissfully cooking beef slices in a pot. Suddenly, a golden spear appeared in front of me. Ethan's voice edged with vigilance. State your name and identity. Terrified, I quickly raised my hands. My name is Aiden, I'm just an ordinary person. Seeing my hesitation, Ethan ordered Sophie to scan me with a detector. After all, anyone daring to enter the white mist zone alone was usually a dangerous criminal. But the scan showed no criminal record, no identity data, only that my ability index was below level 1. Even so, Ethan's piercing stare never left me, as if trying to read something from my expression. His murderous gaze made me break out in a cold sweat. I thought to myself, I must do something to break this tension, otherwise I might be treated as a threat. So I lifted a bowl of beef and cautiously offered, would you like to sit down and share some hot pot? But before I could finish, a thunderous roar of beasts echoed from deep within the zone. Ethan's face darkened instantly. That pressure, it was a whole herd coming this way. He quickly assigned roles. Logan, find a vantage point for long-range sniping. I'll hold the herd head-on. Sophie, take Aiden and get him out of the zone. Without another word, Ethan's body flared with golden light, a massive golden pillar erupting skyward behind him. As the beast horde charged in, Ethan gripped his golden spear and rushed forward to meet them. I seized the chance to slip away, recalling Grandpa Moses's warning. Ability users in the restricted zone could be criminals. What if they turned on me? But as I bent to pack my pot and sneak off, Sophie grabbed me and sprinted away. I could only sigh. So it was true. Ability users always carried that innate sense of superiority. Even though the Dragon Nation and the Alliance had strict laws forbidding them from harming normal people, that sense of superiority could never be erased. Back when Sister Dawn and I searched for food, we always hid at the side of ability users, fearing a short-tempered one might lash out. Sophie carried me higher and higher up the ruined towers. Behind us, I glimpsed Ethan summoning a colossal golden giant. Towering and fierce, the giant swept its golden spear in one broad stroke, halting the entire beast tide. On its back glowed a crimson rune, Demon. I had seen many ability users in my life, but never such overwhelming power. Sophie added calmly, of course, because they are no ordinary ability users. They're the legendary Night Watch. Before I could take in more, the white mist barrier loomed ever closer ahead. Beyond it lay the invisible wall that had trapped me for 7 years. At this speed, we'd smash into it and I'd be crushed. Panicked, I pleaded with Sophie to stop. Listen, the battle sounds are gone, maybe we can rest. But she flatly refused. Out of options, I confessed. I have a strange illness. If I cross that wall, I'll die instantly. She ignored me, carrying me straight toward it. As the barrier loomed within reach, I shut my eyes and prayed the rules would appear again. The next moment, glowing words floated before me. The invisible wall. Only an unseen method can break the rule. I had found the clue, but what does unseen mean? Could it mean self-erasure? Or simply closing my eyes? Taking the risk, I braced myself and let my body crash forward. To my shock, I felt the invisible wall shattering. Sophie stumbled and fell, while I was hurled violently forward. When I opened my eyes again, I froze. Before me stretched a green meadow, the safe zone grassland I had yearned for 7 years but could never reach. At last, I had escaped the white mist zone. Soon after, the frontier squad escorted me back to camp for questioning. Logan held my datasheet, demanding over and over, "What exactly were you doing in the restricted zone? Don't mess around with him. You said you were eating hot pot." I hurried to explain that I really was eating hot pot. People can't just not eat forever, right? At that time, I even thought of inviting you to join me. But Zack sneered coldly. Did you know the death rate for ordinary people entering the White Mist Forbidden Zone is 99.96%? Hearing this, I nodded. I certainly knew. Because I entered with the thought of dying. Just as we were at a stalemate, Susan walked in, supporting the heavily injured Leon. Seeing Leon instantly lifted my spirits. Wasn't this the very man who had transformed into a golden giant in the zone, single-handedly holding back an entire horde of beasts? After Leon sat down, he got straight to the point. How could an ordinary person like me survive in the zone for 7 years? I had no choice but to start from the beginning. 7 years ago, when the White Mist Forbidden Zone first descended upon Landstar, I was trapped by an invisible wall. No matter what methods I tried afterward, I couldn't escape. But I deliberately concealed the secret that I could see the rules of the zone. This made Susan's eyes turn red, so I really had been wrongly blamed. The rational one, though calm, seemed thoughtful. He guessed that the intermittent blindness I described might actually be a sign of awakening powers. The earlier test showed I only had level 1 power fluctuations, but perhaps that result wasn't accurate. So he told Zack to test my vision. Zack drew a dagger and swung it rapidly in front of me, then asked how many times he had slashed. I recalled briefly, should be 67 cuts. Rational's eyes lit up instantly. Likely a superhuman-type ability, enhanced vision plus dynamic sight. That level should be at least C rank or higher. They wanted me to undergo deeper testing, and if anything abnormal was found, they'd deal with me on the spot. I panicked. Were they planning to use me like a lab rat? Susan didn't give me a chance to resist and dragged me outside. Soon my figure appeared in the testing room. The staff in charge was named Nora. The test was a vision chart in front of me. Looking at it, I was puzzled. I had seen this kind of thing countless times in the ruins of the zone. Besides, did I really need to be tied up just to test eyesight? Then I focused. In the next second, everything before me shifted. The smallest character on the chart appeared as if pasted right before my eyes. Looking farther, I could even see the texture of the wall's material. Susan's figure stood out vividly. My heart raced. Did I have X-ray vision too? I instinctively turned toward Nora. Suddenly, warmth rushed to my nose and blood spurted out. Nora was startled. How could a vision test cause nosebleeds? Moments later, the test report was ready. I looked at it. Ability talent rated C+. I asked in confusion, was C+ strong? Nora explained that ability ranks are divided into S, A, B, C, and D levels 1 to 6. Talent rating represents the upper limit of one's potential. E rank makes up 1.4%, D rank 47.2%, C rank 37.2%, B rank 13.7%. As for S and A combined, the less than 1%. Those levels are basically all talents cultivated as key assets of the Republic. Then he added, abilities fall into 4 types, 84.37% are superhuman, 12.33% phantom beast, 2.42% mystic, and only 0.08% elemental. So don't think C rank is unimpressive. Proportionally, you've already surpassed more than half of awakened ability users. As he spoke, he patted my shoulder and reminded me, when you use your power to look at others, they may sense it. Like just now, when I used X-ray vision on him. My face flushed and I hurried to laugh it off. It was just that I hadn't fully controlled my power yet. Then Nora turned back and added, my X-ray vision could actually be considered a rare support talent. If I applied to the Ability Academy, I might even get a tuition waiver. Hope instantly ignited in me. That was the nation's dedicated training ground for ability users, gathering the top resources and strongest mentors. If I graduated, I could naturally join the first division. Every year, only 1/3 of awakened users nationwide are admitted. I had dreamed of it since childhood. Now maybe it could really come true. Nora handed me a special ID card, certifying me as a safe ability user. I froze. Leon had just said they might cut me open, and now I was free? Nora laughed. It was just Leon's joke to scare me. As long as no dangerous power is found, one can be certified safe. My anxious heart finally settled. I planned to find my sister and Grandpa Wood. Not long ago, while fleeing monsters, they hadn't managed to escape the zone. Worse, their car broke down on the road. Just as they fixed it, a thunderous noise erupted, countless monsters charging at them. They rushed into the car, but the worn-out vehicle couldn't outrun the beasts. Grandpa Wood made a harsh decision, tossing out all the cargo. As he was about to shut the door, a monster rammed into the car. At that critical moment, a figure dove from a tall building, punching several monsters away. It was Tony, carrying the ability crystal. Once Tony got into the car, my sister hit the gas. Seeing Tony's severe wounds, Grandpa Wood wanted to treat him, but my sister frowned, first confirm his identity. Tony interrupted. The danger wasn't over, now wasn't the time. As he spoke, claws tore through the rear door. Tony sat up instantly. I'll handle this one, you just drive out of the zone. He handed the ability crystal to my sister. If anything happened to him, they must deliver it to the military. But at that moment, a monster lunged inside, biting Tony. His fist flared with power, smashing the creature away. His voice grew heavy. Though it was our first meeting, I believe you can be trusted. Trading my life for one ability crystal is worth it. With that, Tony charged out of the car, hurling himself at the horde. My sister knew staying would only drag him down, so she drove away in tears. She looked at the crystal in her hand, wondering what Tony had sacrificed to protect. But the moment her fingers touched it, the crystal burst into dazzling light and suddenly merged into her body. At once, the strange energy surged toward Tony, who was still fighting. He had no time to react. The force slammed into him brutally. Even with his superhuman physique, he was blown several meters away. The beast that had attacked just moments ago now shivered in terror and bolted. Tony clutched his chest, rising, confused at the source of this energy. Could it be that the crystal had fused with someone? He then arranged for my sister and Grandpa Wood to be settled in Seaview Town, just as he regained consciousness. Grandpa Wood suddenly grabbed the nurse's hand next to him. Where's Hannah? Has anyone seen his granddaughter? The nurse didn't say much, just pointed to the other side of the ward. Grandpa Wood followed her direction and froze on the spot. Inside a huge transparent nutrition pod not far away, Hannah was wrapped in a layer of crystal-clear ice, her body glowing faintly with light. Ignoring his own unhealed wounds, Grandpa Wood pushed away the blanket on him and rushed excitedly toward the pod. What on earth did you do to her? And why did you lock her inside? At that moment, a researcher in a white coat slowly walked over. Sir, your granddaughter's current state is not caused by them. Do you remember what happened before you fainted? That crystal of extraordinary power, when it fused with your granddaughter. Hearing the words extraordinary crystal, Grandpa Wood's mind immediately flashed back to the moment it merged into Hannah's body. The researcher handed him a tablet. That crystal is now gradually fusing with your granddaughter. If everything goes well, Hannah will not only awaken as an extraordinary being but also has a high chance of becoming an extremely rare advanced extraordinary. These words left Grandpa Wood stunned. Since childhood, Hannah never showed the slightest sign of extraordinary power. How could she suddenly become an advanced one? The researcher saw through his doubts. Some people awaken their powers much later than others. It's also possible some special force since childhood suppressed her inner fluctuations, preventing them from surfacing. That's why there are few recorded cases, but Hannah is likely one of them. Then his tone turned grave. But it's too early to talk about this now. The crystal's energy waves are extremely strong, likely already attracting the attention of the apostles of the faith of God. For Hannah, the true threat now is this extremely dangerous group. The so-called Faith of God is a terror organization made of countless extraordinary criminals. They claim human awakening comes from shards of a higher dimensional God, and the appearance of the white mist zone is a sign of the divine kingdom's descent. All along, they've plotted to erase human civilization and wipe out the weak, letting the white mist consume the entire planet. They boast that only advanced extraordinary beings with shards of God qualify to join them. The researcher sighed deeply. They currently have no way to conceal the crystal's energy signal, so the cult will stop at nothing to find Hannah. They'll either turn her into one of their apostles, or kill her outright if the conversion fails. And if she is successfully turned, the Night Watchers will be forced to end her life as well. Meanwhile, a man in a purple robe appeared on the rooftop of a building near the hospital, his gaze fixed on the medical zone where Hannah was kept. He was Raven, an apostle of the Faith of God. His mission this time was to locate Hannah, who had fused with the crystal. Once he confirmed the target, a ruthless glint flashed in his eyes. If he completed this mission, the position of ninth apostle would surely be his. At the same time, I was sitting on a bus, staring blankly at the passing scenery. Just as I was about to yawn, the bus braked sharply. Chaos erupted inside, but the driver turned and shouted for silence. There was a monster ahead. Hearing this, my heart tightened. Looking outside along with the others, I saw a massive beast, and then its gaze locked directly on mine. Instantly, cold sweat drenched me. The next second, the monster charged at the bus. At this critical moment, the driver suddenly pulled out a glowing weapon. Everyone must calm down immediately. He was a retired night watcher, an Earth-level extraordinary, and he would do everything to protect us. Taking a deep breath, he stepped off the bus, gripping his weapon tightly, ready to shield everyone from the beast above. Watching him clash with the monster, guilt welled inside me. Though I had been certified as an extraordinary, my power was only support type, enhanced vision, with no combat ability. But I couldn't just sit and do nothing. Maybe I could find something useful to do. When I opened my eyes again, the scene changed. Above the passengers' heads, faint blue words appeared. I wondered what this extra information meant. Looking around, I saw more, a muscular man with level 1 skin hardening, and an old man with ember powers. Then I realized, the muscular man was too terrified to act, and the old man too frail. Looking at my trembling hands, I thought extraordinary powers were supposed to mean strength, but clearly not always. And I was just a support type with no battle strength. As I hesitated, I suddenly saw the driver struck down by the monster's claw. He was badly injured but still charged forward, teeth gritted. The passengers panicked even more. A man in a suit shouted mockingly, "Was this all a retired night watcher was capable of? Such a waste of Earth-level talent." But before he could finish, a loud slap cut him off. The old man had stood up. If not for protecting these defenseless people, the driver could have left. Even active night watchers aren't obligated to sacrifice themselves for scum like that. With those words, fire slowly ignited in the old man's palm. Could his aged body still be of use? Beside him, the muscular man also inhaled deeply, preparing to fight. But the monster looked like Earth level. Below that, anyone rushing in was as good as dead. Compared to them, I as a support extraordinary would fare no better. Yet their courage infected me. After a moment of struggle, I clenched my fists. My name is Ethan. Level 1 support type extraordinary ability can also join the fight. Although I really am not suited for direct combat, as long as I stay in the right position, maybe I can help you. Meanwhile, the driver gripped the hilt of his sword tightly on the battlefield, swiftly slashing out several incredibly sharp arcs of sword light at the monster. Then his uncle saw us running over this way. "Sir, we are here to help you kill the monster together," I shouted while running. The driver was instantly so angry his head almost swelled. He had just barely avoided being taken down in a single strike, let alone us level 1 extraordinary users. I hurried to cut him off. This monster's tail is poisonous, and before the venom takes effect, you only have 3 minutes to treat the wound. The driver's face instantly darkened, clearly not expecting me to know such things. I quickly added, "My ability lets me see some extra information, please believe me." At that moment, the old man's flame suddenly flared larger, and with a furious roar he hurled the fire outward. A massive explosion erupted, filling the air with smoke and dust, blocking the monster's sight. The old man seized the chance to rush to the driver's side and press the fire onto the wound the monster had clawed. The old man nodded, using fire to cauterize the wound and stop the bleeding, preventing the toxin from spreading further inside. A bead of cold sweat slid down the driver's face. He never thought the intel from a seemingly useless support type like me could be so valuable. But the monster didn't give us any more time to breathe. With a sudden roar, it swung a claw straight at us. At that critical moment, the muscular man's figure suddenly stepped in front, and the monster was blasted away by the power erupting from his body. Although he successfully blocked the attack, the pain on his face showed the insurmountable gap between Earth level and level 1. Just then, the monster turned its gaze toward me. I cursed silently. Looks like this thing isn't dumb at all, it actually knows to strike at the weakest first. Facing the monster drawing closer, my heart gradually grew calm. In the past I could only run when facing monsters, but now it's different. I've become an extraordinary, and a superhuman type at that. The monster's figure was clearly reflected in my pupils as I activated vision enhancement. I tried pushing it to the limit, and in an instant it reached something like video playback. Everything around me slowed down. Even the monster's claw movements became crystal clear. This was the effect I had accidentally discovered before while watching scenery on the bus, but those attempts had never entered such an extreme state. Seeing the muscular man pinned nearby, I steeled myself, focusing even harder to keep enhancing my vision. Soon I saw a phantom image of the monster lunging at me. I watched as the phantom's claw sliced across my waist, and for a moment I thought, was this an illusion? But then I realized, this must be the monster's next move. Thinking that, I smirked. If I can predict its next action, then I can dodge. But right then my foot slipped on a stone, and I fell hard to the ground. The next second, the monster's strike smashed exactly where I had been standing, gouging out a huge crater in the ground. Realizing its attack had missed, the monster clenched its claws again, readying another strike. Cold sweat ran down my forehead. Though my eyes could keep up with its moves and predict them, my body couldn't react fast enough. Dodging frantically under the monster's assault, I noticed the 3 others staring dumbfounded, unsure if I was some hidden master or just absurdly lucky. Then the driver charged forward again, his blade flashing as it sliced cleanly across the monster's neck. As the creature crashed heavily to the ground, I finally exhaled in relief. The driver wasted no time, shouting for us to get back on the bus. We had to leave this dangerous place immediately. But not far away, on a slope, a lone figure was watching closely. His eyes sharpened, clearly intrigued by my unusual display. After reaching our destination, I parted ways with the others. The old man patted my shoulder and left me with a saying well known among extraordinaries: there is no strongest ability, only the strongest extraordinary. My strength might look weak now, but his old eyes would not be mistaken. I would surely achieve something great one day. The driver and the others all nodded, warming my heart. I'll work hard. Thank you for the encouragement. But once I turned into the streets, I froze. Although I knew from the villagers that my sister had come to this town, with such a sea of people, where could I find her? At that moment I felt a slip of paper in my pocket. A phone number was written on it. But after being trapped in the white mist zone for 7 years, I had barely even seen a phone. Just as I was worrying, I saw a man nearby fiddling with a little rectangular device. I hurried over and asked if I could borrow his phone. The man stepped back warily, staring at me. A personal communicator is a lifesaver. How could he just lend it out? Scratching my head in embarrassment, I explained I had just come out of the white mist zone and hadn't had time to buy a phone yet. Before I could finish, he quickly hid the device behind his back and whispered into it. My heart jolted, and I bolted. Using my ability, I had overheard him. He thought I was a member of the faith of God. Looks like this organization really isn't made of good people. Just then, a yawning girl with messy hair walked out from behind. The moment she saw me, her eyes lit up. Hey kid, coming to Red Romance looking for a little excitement? I quickly shook my head, but my stomach growled loudly. The girl, Daisy, laughed so hard she almost doubled over. How many days have you been starving? Then another girl with green hair, Lily, came over. When she saw me, her eyes also sparkled. Where did this handsome boy come from? Even more charming than our number 9. I could only stammer out an introduction. My name is Ethan. I'm 17 this year. Daisy raised a brow. 17? Named Ethan 17? So next year will you be Ethan 18? Lily smacked Daisy on the back. Don't you get it? Ethan 17 obviously means 17 times in one night. Daisy and Lily exchanged a look, then quickly explained. Red Romance is a nationwide chain of legit bars, not some shady place. Saying that, Lily tugged me inside. Perfect. We are short a waiter. You just need to serve tea and water. My eyes lit up. Really? Can I? Lily nodded. But there's no base salary. Your pay depends entirely on customer tips. Dora quickly added. Quite a few female bosses come here. As long as I'm sweet-talking and obedient, earning 1,000 or 800 in one night isn't a problem. That instantly made my eyes widen. But then I wondered, why specifically say in one night? Judging from their looks, a chill ran down my spine. Could this place really be dangerous? But then again, if they're willing to take me in, they must be good people. Besides, the tips really aren't small. So I nodded right away, saying I'd definitely work hard. Then they pulled me along to prepare clothes. My heart sank. Isn't this just hiring a waiter? Why so urgent? Soon it was late at night. The bar was filling with more and more customers. I stood in the corner, wearing the standard uniform, looking utterly lifeless. Just then, a few elegantly dressed girls surrounded me. You must be new, right? One of them casually threw an arm over my shoulder. So, do you know about Red Romance's special service? My mind went blank. Lily never mentioned any special service to me. Before I could react, she stuffed a wad of cash into my chest. I wanted to refuse, but seeing that money made me hesitate. By 4:30 a.m., those girls finally left satisfied. Back at the dorm, I first took a hot shower. Back in the White Fog Zone, I had fantasized countless times about life in the safe zone. But these past few days had been too bizarre. Breaking walls, awakening powers, being interrogated by city officials, then getting ambushed halfway, and now working at a bar with a decent job. Then I activated my ability again, scanning through the wall. Sure enough, I spotted a black silhouette I'd never seen before. Dora was reporting to him. He asked if there had been anything unusual in Huanghai town. Dora immediately replied, 2 days ago, there was an abnormal fluctuation in an ability crystal, and I heard a frozen girl is being guarded by the night watch. My heart filled with suspicion. What exactly is Red Romance? It clearly isn't as simple as it looks. Before I could think further, that Shadow's gaze suddenly turned cold. Who's spying on me? I quickly pulled my sight back, terrified. That was close. I was almost caught. That black silhouette's true identity was none other than the owner of Red Romance Bar. Her face turned cold again, then she asked Dora, did the bar recently take in a newcomer? The next noon came quickly. Dora came to the dorm to call me for lunch. As soon as she peeked in, she saw me doing push-ups on the floor. She immediately reached out to grab my arm. Little bro, these muscles are looking good. I panicked and backed away. Dora, this is a legit place. Touching around like that will get us in trouble. She snorted in dissatisfaction. This kid's only been here a day, and already knows how to talk back. I hurried to throw on my clothes. Once I'm dressed, I'll go eat with you right away. But suddenly Dora leaned in close, eyes sharp. Last night, you used your ability to peek into the next room, didn't you? My heart skipped, but I quickly played dumb. Dora, what do you mean by that? She shoved me against the wall. Don't play dumb. Red Romance may look like an ordinary bar, but it's actually a hidden underground intel organization. And we've already heard about your ability. Truth is, we brought you here to recruit you. My chest tightened. Recruit me? But, could I even refuse? Dora was momentarily surprised. Why would I even think that way? After all, my ability is perfect for intel work. I turned my body, voice firm. I don't want to be just an intel agent. Once I'm recruited, it's basically losing my freedom. I need to find my family. And I need to grow stronger. I paused. I'm grateful you took me in, but I must find my sister and grandfather. Even if it's a deadly journey, I have to see them. My tone was unshakable. Dora didn't press further, instead giving me crucial intel. In the southwest, Zone 77's danger area has just been fully cleared by demon hunters. The zone's rating has dropped. Plenty of fortune seekers are flocking there. You can train yourself there, and maybe even find your family. She handed me a phone. Don't worry, there's no bug inside. Our numbers are saved, mine and Lily's. If you change your mind, Red Romance always welcomes you back. I was deeply moved. Thank you both. No matter what happens, I'll definitely return. Soon I packed my things and bid farewell to the sisters at the bar. Though on the surface, Red Romance wasn't exactly a righteous business, secretly extracting intel from customers and reselling it at high prices, it gave me an unexpected sense of warmth. And besides, my vision ability seemed to have hit a bottleneck. Since it awakened inside the White Fog Zone, perhaps the key to growing stronger lies there too. No matter what, I have to venture into Zone 77. 2.5 hours later, I finally arrived at its outskirts. It was bustling like a marketplace, filled with ability users forming teams. Suddenly, a big guy grabbed me. Kid, did you come here alone? My team just happens to need one more. I scanned his teammates with my vision and instantly understood his intent. My ability was only level 1, enhanced sight. The big guy burst out laughing. A rookie level 1 dares to enter the zone alone? Little trash, better run home to your mommy. But the next second, I suddenly saw a glowing orb above his head. Inside it played a scene from his past. His squad had been attacked by a swarm of spiders. While his teammates were being torn apart, he only cared about saving his own skin. A chill spread through me, and I quietly step aside. Thanks for the offer, but I'll go alone. The big guy sneered from behind. Not only weak, but blind too. Level 1 ability users should stick to the outer zones. I stopped in my tracks. My life is mine to take responsibility for. At least I won't abandon my teammates in danger just to save myself. Ignoring him, I walked deeper into the zone. Most ability users here were at least mid-tier. If I teamed up, I'd just be cannon fodder, picking up scraps others didn't want. So I was better off solo. Just like Dora said, the fog density varied by location. Thinner areas usually meant entrances. I activated my vision to search for the nearest entry point, but suddenly, a shadow flashed before me. I recognized it immediately, a wraith. These monsters loved ambushing those lost in the fog, but if an ability user headed in the right direction, they usually wouldn't attack first. Luckily, I have the ability of visual enhancement, so I don't need to worry about this situation at all. Just then, a car suddenly drove over from a distance, scaring the fog monster into running away immediately. The captain in the car shouted for a stop. He sensed an unusual fluctuation of powers here. But after carefully scanning around, he didn't find anything unusual. At that moment, I was hiding behind a trash can, not daring to even breathe. My sister Dora once reminded me, those without a legal license entering restricted zones recklessly are committing a crime. If caught by a demon hunter squad, they would be confined for a period. Only when they left far away did I slowly come out. Just as I stood up, I saw new small words appearing on my arm. It was the rules of Restricted Zone 77. My heart leaped with joy. Could it be that as long as I enter a restricted zone, I can see its rules? Doesn't that mean I can walk sideways in these zones? So I quickly jotted down the rules of Zone 77 in my notebook. As I went deeper, the surrounding white mist grew thinner, and I was about to enter the restricted area when suddenly a wolf beast dashed out from the alley. My heart tightened at once. Carnivorous animals inside restricted zones are extremely prone to mutating into vicious slaughter-type monsters. That would mean the wolf beast before me had power above ground level. But instead, it just stood there panting. Looking closer, I froze on the spot. This was no slaughter-type wolf beast. It was clearly a husky. I couldn't believe it. Even if it wasn't a monster, any animal surviving in a restricted zone must have something extraordinary. I gripped my dagger tightly, but the husky just lay on the ground, wagging its tail, showing no aggression at all. Doubt rose in my heart. Could this dog really be just a normal husky? But how could such a tame dog exist in a dangerous restricted zone? Then I realized it had been staring at the steak in my backpack, drooling. That convinced me even more. It was definitely just a dumb dog, no mistake. I waved my hand to say goodbye, but it happily followed me. I tried to shoo it away, but it still wagged its tail and trailed behind. I had no choice but to compromise. Did it really want to follow me? Unexpectedly, it even understood my words and nodded. Out of habit, I used my ability to scan the husky and saw small words floating above its head. Demon wolf, attempting to become your companion. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. With such a goofy look, was it really a demon wolf? I stopped thinking too much and said, from now on, I'll call you a Goozy. Time quickly passed to the next morning. I was grilling steak in an open space when a Goozy suddenly barked madly toward the distance. My heart tightened as I looked in the direction it stared. The sandy ground suddenly began surging wildly, and the next second, an enormous scorpion creature burst out. My X-ray ability instantly triggered. Species, Demon Scorpion, Level C. Its main attack came from massive pincers and a venomous stinger tail, extremely skilled in underground ambushes. I gripped my dagger, heart pounding. This thing looked much more dangerous than any monster I'd faced before, especially since I was still alone. But before I could react, a Goozer lunged and bit hard onto the scorpion's pincer. I never expected a Goozy wouldn't fear this powerful demon scorpion. Meanwhile, not far away, 3 espers hid, secretly observing. Their leader swallowed hard. This guy didn't even open a safety barrier, and yet had a monster companion. Could he be a believer of the gods? The bald man beside him trembled. Rumor had it that God's Chosen could ignore restricted zone rules. Seeing me daring to grill meat casually inside the zone, maybe I really had some mysterious inheritance. The third man hesitated. They had survived by robbing espers along the way. Should they retreat now? Their leader quickly waved them down, saying my background was unclear and they should keep observing. On my side, I finally believed one thing. A Goozy was truly a demon wolf, only disguising himself as a harmless husky most of the time. The scorpion grew irritated by a Goozer's provocation and snapped its huge pincer at him. A Goozy leapt aside and countered with a bite. Both were sea-level monsters, a Goozy agile, the scorpion heavily armored, so neither could gain an advantage. I immediately activated my ability, scanning the scorpion from head to tail. Finally spotting its last tail joint was paler than the rest and stiff when turning. I quickly signaled a Guzi to target its tail joint. A Guzi crouched low and bit down hard. With a crunch, he snapped the stinger clean off. The scorpion screamed in pain, twisted violently, then fled underground. The 3 espers watching were utterly shocked. This kid could control a monster. Was he perhaps one of the gods' puppet masters? Only the top leaders of the gods' followers bore that title. One quickly dismissed the idea, saying it was absurd. Maybe I was just lucky to drive off the scorpion. After all, I relied on a silly dog the whole time. As long as they ambushed me, they'd succeed. At that moment, I slowly walked out, deliberately putting on a fierce look. You guys, what are you sneaking around here for? Only then did they realize I had appeared above them without notice. I looked down coldly. From the moment you said I was a puppet master, I was already here. The 2 underlings exchanged glances. So what if I was a believer of the gods? I was still only one person. Even with the dog, there was no need to worry. After all, they had 3 people, and my backpack looked cheap, hardly the gear of an expert. Watching them muttering, I felt speechless. Were they really going to attack me? Judging by their stance, they clearly hadn't read the public rules of the restricted zones. 3 C-level espers against me, an E-level, was more than enough. Even if a Guzi helped, at most he could handle one of them, but I would still be killed instantly. Though breaking the rules meant heavenly punishment, I would die first. As they all drew weapons, I knew there was no time to hesitate. I stepped forward, raising my voice. Do you really not recognize me? At those words, the 3 of them froze in shock, quickly sheathing their weapons. May I ask who you are, sir? Forcing myself to stay calm, I said, before asking someone's name, shouldn't you introduce yourselves first? Hearing this, they each began introducing themselves. The one in a headscarf said his name was Jiao Cixi, with the endurance ability of a superhuman. But before he finished, I cut him off sharply and said, Jiao Cixi, I saw all the gestures you made with your dagger earlier. As punishment, you will be attacked. If you can survive, I'll let go of what happened before. At this moment, I'm officially using the rules of the Forbidden Zone. Inside the Forbidden Zone, if someone calls your name, you must recall immediately. Jack tensed up all over, but I hadn't even moved. How could I start an attack? Yet the next second, the ground suddenly cracked open, and a tentacle shot up from the dirt, lunging straight at Jack. Although he barely dodged in time, his arm was still slashed open by the tentacle, leaving a deep wound. Jack's face turned pale with fright. He suspected I had awakened an S-rank spirit and that my ability was a psychological ambush. Using the rule gap trick in the Forbidden Zone really worked. I then spoke again, calmly asking which of the 3 still wanted to make a move. The group quickly waved their hands, panicking, saying they dared not. They admitted they had eyes but failed to recognize true power, and hoped I'd be generous and not hold it against them. Then they carried Jack on their backs and fled in a hurry without looking back. Watching their figures disappear completely, I finally let out a breath of relief. If we had really fought, with me being just a beginner ability user, I definitely wouldn't have stood a chance against 3 C ranks. I turned to Rex, telling him the upcoming training would be tough, but if he performed well, I'd roast him a big chunk of meat tonight. Meanwhile, Jack, after escaping, rushed to the Night Watcher's base to report that they had encountered a very powerful expert. At least an A rank, possibly even an S rank ability user. Not only could he command dire wolves, but he also wielded an attack similar to spirit vines, making them suspect this man was a follower of the gods. The captain's expression instantly grew tense. He demanded to know the approximate location and said he would personally confirm the man's identity. Time passed quickly, and 4 days later Rex had already advanced from C rank to B rank. Standing on a tree, I watched him battle a B rank mutant crocodile. Rex suddenly lunged forward, sank his teeth into its belly, and ended the fight instantly. I felt a bit regretful. According to the rules of the Forbidden Zone, physical contact with a monster could not last longer than 3 seconds, so I still couldn't train them into mounts for now. Just then, a sound echoed from the sky. An eagle hovered above us, locking its sharp gaze on me and Rex. This eagle was none other than a scout sent by Captain Wu. He speculated that my ability might involve control, and ordered that they must avoid direct conflict, letting the eagle observe us from afar. But the next second, a pillar of light suddenly shot into the sky in the distance. Wu immediately grew excited. Not only had they found the suspected follower of the gods, but now a heaven and earth anomaly appeared. Could it mean an artifact was about to emerge? At the same time, I also noticed the disturbance. While walking, I muttered to myself that after a week in the Forbidden Zone, I had already covered 300 to 400 kilometers in a straight line but still hadn't reached the core area. Just how massive was this place? Suddenly Rex raised his head and howled, and the next moment, the stones nearby started moving. A colossal python burst from the rocky pile, its icy eyes fixed on me. My heart instantly sank. The pitch-black serpent was actually a gatekeeper-class monster. Along the way, I had taken down plenty of beasts, but this was the first true powerhouse I had ever faced. Let alone me, a mere low-rank ability user. Even Rex at B rank was no match for it. I quickly pulled out the last big chunk of roasted meat from my backpack and offered it toward the python. To my surprise, its cold eyes lit up immediately, and it slowly slithered closer without any sign of attacking. I couldn't help but feel relieved. Even the strongest monster couldn't resist the lure of meat. Meanwhile, the Night Watcher Squad's detector went wild, reacting to the distant light pillar. Wu stared at the data and shouted excitedly, confirming it was at least a high-tier phenomenon and that they had arrived just in time for an artifact's birth. He immediately ordered everyone to prepare, declaring they would seize it at all costs. But he warned them that the Forbidden Zone would consciously spawn monsters to block anyone approaching the artifact, so they must stay sharp. Then Wu unleashed his ability. His body swelled, sprouting 3 wolf heads and a fur-covered torso, transforming into a Cerberus form. The other members transformed as well, some into cheetahs, their speed leaving only after images, others into bears, their immense strength ripping centipedes apart in an instant. Wu led them forward quickly until they reached a stone forest, the inner circle of the White Mist Forbidden Zone, where monsters were denser. Suddenly, a massive black python lunged from behind an obsidian pillar. Wu reacted instantly, sidestepping the strike. It was a nether python, a dark element beast with deadly corrosive venom. Before Wu could give orders, more than a dozen monsters burst out from the pillars, surrounding the squad. The next moment, Wu's 3 wolf heads glowed in different colors, the left spewing violet flames, the right teal flames, and the middle crimson flames. Together, they wove into a blazing net that surged toward the monsters. The team used the chance to break through the encirclement, but none of them noticed another nether python coiled above on an obsidian pillar. It flicked its tongue, preparing to ambush the rear guard. Just as it struck, a massive beast claw suddenly slammed down, making the serpent shriek in pain as blood filled its eyes. It whipped around and sank its fangs into the captain's arm, wrapping its massive body tightly around him. Wu gritted his teeth in agony, commanding his other 2 wolf heads to bite down on the python. The beast recoiled from the pain, loosening its grip, but at the same time Wu's transformation was undone, reverting him to human form. He clutched his arm, the skin around the bite turning black and rotting at a visible speed. The poison was terrifyingly corrosive. Surrounded by advancing monsters, his face darkened. This was bad. With the danger in Zone 77 still unresolved, Wu quickly gave the order. The plan had failed. Everyone was to abandon the fight for the artifact and retreat. In his heart, he calculated that as long as they could withdraw safely, they could regroup and plan again. With the artifact guarded by these monsters, no one else would claim it before them. Watching the battle ahead, I couldn't help but shake my head. What were these guys doing? Clearly, a single piece of meat could buy off the Guardian, so why bother fighting? With that thought, I led Rex forward into the inner area, the Guardian serpent slithering after us. But what I hadn't expected was that the stone forest was far larger than I imagined. Even after walking for 2.5 hours, the white mist was still out of reach. Then I froze in shock, for right before me, a towering monster emerged, its presence shaking the heavens. I guess this creature must be the evolved form of the C-rank demon scorpion that appeared earlier. If I could tame an A-rank beast as a follower, wouldn't that mean I could walk sideways through the entire White Mist Forbidden Zone? I didn't hesitate and immediately threw a piece of roasted meat toward the Thunder Scorpion. After devouring it, the Thunder Scorpion surprisingly lost all hostility toward me. But once it finished all the roasted meat I had, it simply turned and left. I figured maybe for an A-rank beast, normal taming methods didn't work. Yet at that moment, the Thunder Scorpion suddenly returned, this time dragging a dying wild boar with it. I froze in surprise. It actually went hunting just to have me cook barbecue for it. Meanwhile, at the place called the Stone Gate of Gluttony, Entry Level 1, Entry Rules Unknown, a squad had just arrived. One of them suggested breaking the surrounding rocks and carrying the stone gate away. But Captain Wen Yan shook his head. The rules of artifacts override all physical laws. If you can't decipher the rules embedded in an artifact, you can't move or transfer it. After testing, they discovered one crucial rule of this artifact. The Stone Gate of Gluttony was completely non-aggressive. On my side, I also arrived at the Stone Gate of Gluttony. The squad members were instantly shocked. Just who was I, showing up with a B-rank rock python and a B-rank dire wolf? The captain quickly signaled everyone to prepare for battle, certain I came with ill intent. I waved my hand, telling them not to be so nervous. I was here only out of curiosity. If possible, just think of me as a bystander. Captain Wen Yan, however, began to calculate. In the Forbidden Zone, no one's words could be trusted. Even counting my pets, it was still 6 against 3, so they had the advantage. The fact that I hadn't attacked yet must mean I was wary of their strength, or maybe I was stalling for companions yet to arrive. So the captain decided swiftly, signaling his team to strike first and kill me before reinforcements came. I said coldly, "You intend to attack me?" They still pressed forward. Artifacts are considered ownerless. Only the strong can claim them. If I wanted the artifact, I would have to make them submit. Just then, the Thunder Scorpion burst out of the ground and knocked several of them back, shocking them even more. Having 2 B-rank beasts was already insane, but how could I also have an A-rank Thunder Scorpion? Did this mean my strength was beyond A-rank? At that moment, the Thunder Scorpion entered hunting mode. I felt helpless. I had told them not to attack me, but this beast wasn't fully tamed. Once it activated hunting mode, even I couldn't stop it. The captain caught the hidden meaning in my words and quickly raised his hand, saying they were only here for money and that fighting to the death wasn't necessary. With that, the Thunder Scorpion ceased its assault. I then walked slowly toward the Stone Gate of Gluttony and instantly understood. These people hadn't yet figured out the artifact's unlocking rules. From their attitude, it was clear they planned to let me solve it and then swoop in to reap the benefits. To play it safe, before breaking the artifact's rules, I made sure to learn all of their names. This way, even if they plotted against me, I could use the Forbidden Zones rules to deal with them.